We'll allow a few minutes for everyone to get logged in. We are going to give a couple of minutes to let everyone get logged in. Okay, it looks like the participants are logging in. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Vendor Pre-Bid Solicitation Conference for Managed Print Services, Printers, Computers, 3D printers, scanning, plotting, face mail equipment, related services, document imaging services, solution, enterprise content management products, software, and services. This solicitation is request for offer DIR-CPO-TMP-583, also known as RFO 583. At this time, I'll cover some housekeeping notes. You may change the audio by switching between computer audio and phone call. At this time, attendees are muted. You can click the raise hand icon to confirm audio levels. Submit all questions via Q&A in the meeting controls. Chat may be disabled. A handout will be made available in the addendums. At this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Moshe Thomas, the procurement lead.
Thanks, Victor. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Moshe Thomas. I'm one of the procurement leaders here with DIR. I'm also the contact person for this RFO. You have questions, inquiries, all those questions will be coming to me. I'll give you the answers, or I'll get answers for you from all my colleagues. So this morning I want to introduce some of my colleagues at DIR who will be helping me with these presentations. We have Ms. Marie Cohead. She's our statewide digital accessibility program manager. We also have Ms. Teresa Williamson, and she's our hub program manager. And last but not least, we do have Ms. Vanya Ramikas, and she's also a procurement lead here at DIR. All right, next slide, please, Victor. In the agenda this morning, we're gonna overview the RFO. We're gonna be looking at the contents and the scope of the RFO. We'll also take a look at the evaluation criteria that we're gonna be using to evaluate your responses. We're also gonna be looking at the terms of contracts that we're gonna be issuing from this RFO, the schedule of events, and then we'll have Teresa come and give us a presentation on the hub requirements. We'll also have I'll come back and do the pricing sheet, which is very, very important. And then we'll have Marie come and do the accessibility portion of the presentation. And we'll have Ms. Vanya give us general information on how to submit your responses, and also give you an overview of the Best Step Vendor Information System portal. We call it a VIS. You're gonna need to know that because that's the system that you're gonna be submitting your responses through. And we'll talk about some mandatory submissions. We'll take a quick break, maybe 10 minutes, and we'll come back and look at some of the questions that you may have for us. And then we'll close out the conference. All right, next slide, please. Only in terms of the overview, we really are soliciting responses from potential vendors, that will be you, to provide our customers with managed print services and products. Those services and products may include printers, copiers, 3D printers, scanning, plotting, fax equipments, and related services. We are also soliciting for document imaging services and solutions, also enterprise content management products, software services. We are doing all this on behalf of our DIR customers. This is a resolicitation from a previous, the RFO that is ongoing right now. That RFO number is DIR-TSO-TMP-583. Some of you hold contract from this, they were issued under this RFO. Just a way of a reminder that DIR may be making multiple awards from this RFO. We are doing that in order to establish the master contract plan for our customer to utilize. So there will be multiple contracts coming out of this RFO, right? Next slide, please. The slideshow that you are looking at, the picture you are looking at right now, represent the sales for fiscal year 2023. As you can tell, DIR sold over $3.3 billion in technology products and services to all our customers, and we have cost avoidance of almost $400 million. This is a good savings for our customers. As you can see, state agencies provided the highest number of corporate contract sales, followed closely by local government, K through 12, higher ed, out-of-state agency, and finally, the assistance organizations. Next slide, please. The slide that you are looking at right now is an overview of DIR contract program sales from fiscal year 2021 all the way to 2023. If you look at the top table on the far left-hand corner, on the far left column, that represents the different channels or our DIR customers. As you can see, corporate contract sales tools have steadily increased over the period of 3 years, and we do expect that trend to keep going into the next fiscal year. Okay, the smaller chart below shows the contract sales associated with managed print services, the RFO that I was just referencing a minute ago, and also it represents the fiscal year from 2021 all the way to 2023. All right, next slide, please. This is just the content of what you should see in your bid package. You're gonna see the RFO document itself, and the number there is DIR-CPO-TMP-583. This is the current RFO that we are soliciting for, which is taking over from 419 that I just referenced earlier. Also in the same package, you're gonna see 5 attachments, attachment 1 all the way to attachment number 5. I'm quickly gonna go through them right now because we're gonna come back and kind of dig a little deeper on these attachments in this exhibit. But for now, I'll just kind of mention them in passing. Your attachment number 1 is going to be your sample contract for product and services. Attachment number 2 is a sample contract terms and conditions here at DIR. Attachment number 3 is the service agreement that we will have with us. Attachment number 4 is our master lease agreement. And attachment number 5 is the master operating lease agreement, also known as the MOLA. In addition to all these attachments, we have about 11 exhibits as well, exhibit A all the way to K. Just quickly to go through them, exhibit A is the information that we are giving to us. We call it respondents information. Exhibit B is the history and experience of your company that you tell us what you're gonna do for our customers from your history and experience. Exhibit number C is your marketing and customer support plan that you're gonna be giving to us. Exhibit D will be a hub subcontracting plan, also known as HSP. This is just a sample form. You may have to go into the system to download the latest form so you can submit the latest to us. Exhibit number E is the itemized pricing. Exhibit F is the reference forms that you're going to send to at least the minimum of 3 references that they'll have to send it directly to us. Next slide, please, Victor. Thank you. And exhibit G, there will be a release of liability for references. And Exhibit H is our federal requirement. We call it an EDGAR certification form. And Exhibit I, J, K, those are accessibility forms. Exhibit I is a policy-driven adoption for accessibility, also known as the PDAA for your self-assessment. Exhibit J is voluntary product accessibility templates, also known as the VPAT. And Exhibit K is the Vendor Accessibility Development Service Information Request, also known as the VATSA. Right. Next slide, please. Let's just move to the next one. Thank you, Victor. In terms of the terms of contracts, the terms of any contract awarded from this RFO shall be an estimated 2 years with one optional 2-year renewal and one optional 1-year renewal to be exercised by DIR at DIR discretion. The contract will renew automatically in one optional 2-year renewal and one optional 1-year renewal under the same terms and conditions, unless either party provide notice to the other party 60 days in advance of the renewal date, stating that the party wished to discuss modification of the terms or not to renew. Next slide, please. Probably the most important slide for this presentation is the schedule of events when we expect you to submit your responses. This RFO was officially released a couple of weeks ago on November 3rd, 2023, and was published on the same day on Electronic State Business Daily, or ESBD. Today is November 16th, and we are having the pre-proposal webinar. The next most important date is next week, Friday, at 5 o'clock. That's when you should submit all the questions that you have for us on this RFO. Now, as we are going through the presentation today, at the end of this, we'll take some questions for you, but you have until Friday next week to submit additional questions through the VIS system, which Vadian will talk a little bit about in a couple of slides coming up here. The next most important date is January the 17th next year, 2024, at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the deadline for DI to receive vendor references from all the 3 vendors that you have asked to submit your references directly to us. This is also the deadline for submitting proposal for this RFO. On this particular day at 2 p.m., the submit system button on the system will just go gray, so you won't be able to submit anymore. You need to make yourself a note. Whoever is responsible for submission, they need to write this down, making sure that you submit everything on time on that day by 2 p.m. All right. And right after that, around the 22nd of January, we'll start doing the evaluation of your responses. If you need to do oral presentation, we can do that as well. You have to request it, of course, and we'll move into negotiation phase and then the execution of a contract. All right. Next slide, please. Talking about evaluation of responses, we use the pass-fail criteria to evaluate your responses. Incomplete responses package will be rejected. And all the financial reviews and HSP reviews are also done on pass-fail basis. And failure to provide what you call the dance number may result in your response being disqualified. And failure to submit the PDAA may result in your response being disqualified as well. Only responses that receive passing grade will be allowed to proceed to the next evaluation phase. So it's very, very important that you check your package, make sure that everything is completed so you don't disqualify yourself. In terms of the weighted criteria that we are using to evaluate your responses, the pricing takes the chunk of that, about 45%. So you want to make sure that you got your pricing correct and it's done accurately. Also, your history and experience of the product and the services that you are offering to us, that weighted criteria takes about 30%. There's a pretty good chunk there as well. And the last chunk will be taken by your marketing and your customer support plan that you tell us how you're going to support our customers with your product and services. That takes about 25% of the total weighting, making it total 100%. All right. Next slide, please. Now, just to go back on those exhibits that I kind of mentioned a couple of slides before, just want to a little deeper on them, just to explain to them how you need to submit them and what you need to do with them. Let's start with the exhibit A, which is the respondent information, the information that you give to us so we can evaluate you. You will be disqualified if this is not complete and signed, and it must be filled out in its entirety, signed by an officer of your company or an agent empowered to contractually bind you or bind your company. Complete cancel contract reference, if applicable, must also be included in there. Exhibit A1, which is an exception form. This is where you tell us if you're taking any exceptions or terms and conditions of our contracts. And if you do that, we need to know. But here's a word of caution about the exceptions. If you look at the bottom of that slide, it says respondent's response may be disqualified if the exceptions are excessive. And that simply means that it doesn't mean that you cannot have an exception. Of course, you can if you want to and you have them, you can negotiate them, but you cannot have them in an excessive where they're going to delay the process and you might end up being disqualified because of that. So we just kind of caution you as you take exceptions towards our terms and contracts. Except B, which is the respondent's history and experience, which is also scored at 30%, you must provide detailed response to each question, detailing the respondent's history and experience in providing products and services that you have proposed to us. Okay. Next slide, please. Exhibit C is the marketing and customer support plan, which is scored at 25%, as I mentioned much earlier. And in this, here you must provide a plan that describes your ability and your strategy for promoting and supporting the contract if it's awarded to you. Exhibit D, and Teresa will talk a little bit more about this later on, but you need to know that it must be submitted by each and every respondent, whether you are subcontracting or not, it's going to be required from you. Itemized E, which is Exhibit E, which is an itemized pricing sheet. This is the one I'm going to be talking a little bit about that must also be completed in its entirety. There's two itemized, there's two forms here. One is automated, which is in the bid stamp VIS, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And the other one is a spreadsheet format, which should be part of your bid package that you should be looking at. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. Next slide, please. Exhibit F, which is the vendor reference, you must send the reference form to a minimum of 3 companies or government agents, whoever you've been dealing business with. The reference must be responded directly to, it must be sent directly to DIR, and you should not send them to us. They should send them directly to us, to the email that we've provided to them. And Exhibit G, which is the release of liability for references. This form requires all cancel contract and they must be provided to DIR with respondent's proposal. And we have a federal requirements we call the EDGAR certification form that must also be provided as part of submission for this RFO per section 3.61. Exhibit I, which is a policy-driven adoption for accessibility, also known as a PDA for your self-assessment, must be completed and provided along with your response. Exhibit J, accessibility conformance report, also known as the VPAT, must be provided for all your accessibility conformance report for all commercial off-the-shelf costs product listed in itemized in Exhibit E, which is the itemized price sheet. And last but not least, Exhibit K, which we call it the Vendor Accessibility Development Service Information Request, or the VATSA, must also be provided for all your proposed developmental services listed in Exhibit E, or the itemized pricing sheet. So in terms of the exhibits, those are all that should be submitted along with your proposal. Next one, please. Let's talk a little bit about the RFO scope, what is in scope and what's not in scope. So in general, DIR intends to contract with you, the qualified vendor, to provide managed print services. And again, I said earlier, this will include the printers, copiers, 3D printers, scanning, loading, fax equipment, and related services. Also, document managing service and solution is in scope this time around. and enterprise content management, which include products, services, and all the related services that goes along with that. Next slide, please. In terms of some specific, just to drill down a little bit on some of these services and products, managed printing services shall be for the management of one or more output devices. This may include, but certainly not limited to, the production or print type devices, and shall apply to routine office of fleet document output devices such as printers, copiers, faxes, scanners, plotters, multifunction unit, as well as 3D printer devices. Now, DI customer may order the MPS individually or in any combination thereof. 3D printers may include any of the MPS offering, including but certainly not limited to installation, maintenance, and support of the related services. Next slide, please. Document imaging system and services, or DIS, is also in scope. Document DIS system can take many forms, as you may know, including microforms, on-demand printers, fax machines, copiers, multifunctions printers, document scanners, computer output microforms, or archive writers, or indexing services. Documenting imaging service means conversion of paper files really into digital images, or digital images means conversion of digital files into digital conversion of some sort. So some of the examples, which are certainly not exhaustive, will include things like document conversion, preservation and archiving, scanning and imaging, document preparation, indexing and formatting, digital retention, storage and hosting, microfiche, and digitalization imaging. Now, this list is by no means exhaustive. You know your products and services, so you'll be offering some of these which are in scope to our customers. Next slide, please. Enterprise content management is also in scope. And as you can imagine, it's used to create, store, distribute, archive, transform, and manage unstructured content, such as scanned document, email, reports, medical images, and office documents, and ultimately analyze usage to enable the organization to deliver relevant content to user where and when they need it. So some of the products in this category may include things like CSP, which is Content Service Platform, which is a set of services or microservices really, embodied in either an integral product suite or separate applications that share common application interfaces, or what we call APIs, and all the repository that goes with it. This kind of platform can be delivered as an integral product suite or as a separate application that have similar APIs and repository. And again, based on your product and services and what our customers require, you can always customize this to fit their needs based on what's on scope. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of the related services, these are all value-added services that you may perform as it relates to the product that you are proposing. This may include things like product installation, integration, maintenance and support, technical service, managed service, and some training on your product that you are offering to our customers. So all of those, they are built into products that you are offering our customers. They come along with it, they are all in scope. Next slide, please. What's not in scope? What's been excluded from this? Things like customer application development services is out of scope this time around. DBAS, or deliverable-based information technology service, that's out of scope. Cloud broker service, cloud assessment services, professional or consulting services as defined in Chapter 2254 of the Texas Government Code. Telecommunication services include telecommunication service offered in contract awarded by DI under tax and procurement. All of those are out of scope this time around. And if you go to a website that is just below on the slideshow, it will tell you an exhaustive list of all other prohibited softwares and things that you cannot bid for, or they're not part of this scope. All right. Next slide, please. I think this is where we're gonna hand it over to Teresa to talk about Hub.
Thank you, Moshe. I appreciate it. My name is Teresa Williamson. I'm the Hub Program Manager, and we're going to talk about the importance of the Hub subcontracting plan. The link here is the link provided for you to download the most current hub subcontracting plan for your use, for you to be able to complete and submit that form. Please be aware that all respondents, hub and non-hub, will complete a hub subcontracting plan. A hub subcontracting plan is also known as your HSP. Please do not modify this document. It is an editable copy. Please do not convert it as well to a Word document. Next slide. Okay. Again, all respondents are required to submit a completed and signed HSP. Failure to submit a completed HSP will cause your response to be rejected. This is a pass or fail item. There are 3 ways to complete your HSP. 1 is to self-perform. 2 is to meet or exceed the hub goal and complete method A, or not meet the hub goal and to complete method B. Again, if you do not correctly complete your sign your HSP, you will be disqualified from moving forward with this solicitation. Next slide. The hub goal for this RFO is 21.1%. So if your proposed subcontracting meets or exceeds the 21.1% hub goal, you'll complete method A. Be sure to identify all hub and non-hub vendors that you'll be subcontracting with as well. Please include your anticipated dollar amounts and your expected percentages. So if you are completing method A, you'll complete sections 1, 2, 4, and then the method A, attachment A. Please do not forget to sign and date your HSP in your section 4 affirmation. The hub office will provide you with a precursory review of your HSP prior to the due date of this RFO. Next slide. Okay. So if you are going to subcontract below the hub goal, you will complete method B. With your method B good faith effort, you must allow the vendors and trade organizations 7 business days to respond to you before moving forward. Please note that the day you send out your correspondence is considered day 0. So include your outreach to these entities with your HSP submission. And so when completing method B, you'll complete sections 1, 2, 4, and then your method B, attachment B. I'm again including those approximate dollar amounts and expected percentages. I've seen many companies submit an incomplete method B good faith effort and fail. That's the reason we always offer the precursory reviews through the DIR hub office. Next slide. If you will be self-performing, you will complete sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. And your self-performing justification, you'll identify how your company will fulfill a contract with its own staff, equipment, and resources. Please don't add any comments about subcontracting, or you'll subcontract in the future if needed. Just simply tell us how you plan to self-perform. Next slide. Again, my name is Teresa Williamson. This is our contact information. Please allow yourself ample time to complete your HSP correctly. We all want to see you and your company be successful, so please submit your HSP for that precursory review and give yourself plenty of time to make corrections if needed. And as always, please copy your procurement lead, which is Moshe on this RFO, when submitting any documents for any HSPs for your precursory review or any hub questions. We'll be glad to help you. Thank you. Next slide. Back over to you, Moshe.
Thank you, Teresa. Next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about the Exhibit E, which is the product and pricing and service pricing. Okay, as I said earlier, there's 2 of these. One is automated on the bid stamp, and the other one is in the Exhibit E, which is a spreadsheet document, which is part of your package. Let's talk about the first one, which is in BISTEM VIS. This must be filled out in its entirety. You go into the system, if you look at your screen, you'll see there's a sample screen there. It kind of gives you an idea on how to maneuver right through it. And Vanya will come a little later on to talk a little bit more about how you submit through that screen. But for now, you must submit a discount of the offering on that automated pricing form in BISTEM VIS by selecting create pricing form button, and then it will take you through all the lines that you need to fill. This will include product category that you need to fill out, the MSRP or the price list, and all other line that the system requires. If you do not input it correctly, the system will not move forward. So you need to make sure that you follow the instructions closely. So this is the automated pricing form that you need to do on BISTEM. Next slide, please. The next one is the spreadsheet that is attached to your bid package, and it contains 6 tabs. The first tab is an instruction on how to fill it out. This contains instruction for completing the price sheet that will assist you in completing your proposal. So this is crucial that you read the instruction on tab number 1. Tab number 2, really the information that you need to input in that tab mirrors what you just inputted in BISTEM automated system. All the product suite that you are offering, products, services, and all the pricing and all the discount that goes along with those products needs to be inputted on this second tab. The third tab, you put all the product under MPS or the managed print services that your company is offering to a discount to our customers. Tab for the same thing, except you are entering every product and services that you're offering under the document image services or solutions. And tab number 5, you're entering all the ECM or enterprise content management product suite that you are offering to our customers. So all these 3 tabs, third, fourth, and fifth, you are customizing all that you are offering to our customers in each tab accordingly. And tab number 6 is if you are offering our customers some volume discount of some sort. This is where you input that information on tab number 6, just to give us an idea what it is. If we're buying in bulk or we're buying individually, it will be in tab number 6. Okay. Next slide, please. So like I said, make sure that you enter all the prices in applicable tabs. Okay, for certain products such as costs or those that have interfaces, the VPAT ACR document, they must also be included in your respondent's proposal. Some of the elements that are required for this pricing sheets are things like product category, sometimes referred as a brand category. You have to describe product description. The part number is very, very important that you put it in there. It helps us out when we do our cost avoidance. Just make sure that we can find that part in some other system so we can compare the prices. Make sure that you have your MSRP price list in there as well. And discount being offered to our customer is very, very important for your competitiveness as you are bidding. And the DIR customer prices should be included there as well. Next slide, please. We're going to allow Marie to come in here and talk about accessibility. Take it away, Marie.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marie Cohan. I am the statewide digital accessibility program lead, and I'm going to go through the different required accessibility documentation. So digital accessibility refers to the inclusive practice of designing and building technology that removes barriers for people with disabilities. You'll hear terms like electronic and information resources, or EIR, and information and communications technology, or ICT. Those all fall under the umbrella of digital accessibility. We do have Texas Government Code 2054 that supports our digital accessibility initiatives in the state. We also have accompanying rules, TAC 206 related to websites, and TAC 213 related to all other electronic and information resources. And we follow industry best practices provided by the World Wide Web Consortium, or WCAG, and the state baseline level for accessibility is WCAG 2.0 AA. While that is the state baseline, agencies and higher ed are permitted to have a higher standard. So just be aware of that. Then there are 2 higher standards above the baseline. There is 2.1 AA, and now 2.2 AA has just recently been released last month. So just be aware of that. And then all vendors must provide the required accessibility documentation, depending on what is in your response. Next slide, please. So there are 3 types of documentation that make up the accessibility packet. We have the policy-driven adoption for accessibility, which is a vendor self-assessment. This is a self-assessment of the vendor's organization. I'll go into more detail on that on all of these in the next few slides, but I cannot stress enough the importance of this document. It could result in a disqualification if it is missing or incomplete. And even if it is submitted and has a score of 0, it will be a fail for the accessibility packet. The accessibility conformance report, which is a completed VPAT. The VPAT is an industry standard document that vendors will use or product owners will use to test their product against the WCAG success criteria. And then the vendor accessibility development services information request. This is for development services or any type of special bespoke services that could impact the user interface. So that document is required. Next slide, please. So going over the policy-driven adoption for accessibility, this is a NASIO-sponsored document. It is a self-assessment of the vendor organization, the organization that is responding to the solicitation. It demonstrates where the organization is at in its digital accessibility maturity. Once this document is complete, the vendor can use this to develop a roadmap within the organization to improve or mature their accessibility practices. It's a spreadsheet that is provided in your packet. You can use the same spreadsheet. Please put numbers in. I have seen some recently where they put check marks or X's in the fields instead of the number. We do require the numbers to be put into the correct blanks or whatever blank is appropriate for your response, because they total at the bottom and provide a final score. So if you do put X's or check marks or anything else like that, you will have a score of 0 at the bottom. So I just want to make that point. This is a required document. If it is missing or incomplete, it could result in a disqualification. If it comes in fully complete but has a score of 0, it will fail the accessibility packet. So please review those questions carefully. Even if you're at a very entry-level stage in your digital accessibility maturity, you're just starting to create some policies internally, you're just starting to write up some documentation, please score yourself accordingly with that, so you do not have a score of 0. Next slide, please. This is what the PDAA maturity matrix looks like. You can find this in your packet, and the slide deck will be made available after this presentation. These are pretty much the 3 main stages. So you have an entry-level stage or launch stage, you have an intermediate stage or integration, and then you have an advanced stage or an optimal stage. And what that means is that digital accessibility practices and policies are integrated into your key business areas. So procurement, HR, IT. If you're a company that develops software, it's integrated into your software development lifecycle, maybe integrated into your project management life cycles. You have those policies and practices documented. They are repeatable. They are auditable. That would be an optimal stage for your accessibility maturity. Next slide, please. So the accessibility conformance report or completed VPAT is required for each product that is in your response. Again, the baseline for the state is WCAG 2.0 AA. Agencies do have the discretion to have a higher standard, so just be aware of that. We are requiring VPAT 2.3 or higher on the version that you use, the template. The VPAT is basically a template that lists out the different WCAG success criteria. It is blank, so it needs to be completed with the information around the product, a description of the product, how the product was tested, and then how the product conformed to the different success criteria. Typically, ideally, this is completed by the product owner or manufacturer. Ideally, it has been completed based on actual testing, testing with assistive technology or with a person with a disability. If I do see these come through that will say that it was tested or filled out based on general product knowledge, that is not going to bode well for the final score. So please try to get the actual ACRs from the product owners and show that they were actually tested. So it'll say on there tested using assistive technology like Dragon or something like that. That would be a better response in that area. If your product has not changed at all since April 18th of 2020, you can use an older ACR version. Again, that's April 18th of 2020, no changes whatsoever that impact the user interface. Then you can use an older version. Next slide, please. So this is a sample, a very high-level summary of the WCAG success criteria. This is only the success criteria for 2.0 AA. We have the 3 core principles in here: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Those are the 4 principles that technology must adhere to when it comes to digital accessibility. And underneath each of those is the different success criteria. As a product is tested against those success criteria, it will demonstrate a conformance. Next slide, please. And the conformance is, does it support that success criteria? Does it support with exceptions? Does it not support? Is it not applicable, or was it not tested at all? If you have anything on your VPAT as you're completing it that is not supported, so if it's a support with exceptions or does not support, please complete the field that is there for explanation. That helps us understand what specifically the gap is for that particular success criteria. If that entire section is left blank, that will also impact your score. So please provide the additional explanation where appropriate. Next slide, please. So this is for the Vendor Accessibility Development Services Information Request. This solicitation is mainly for products. I did not see a lot of area in there for any kind of bespoke services. There is possibilities that they could enter into an engagement. So we leave this in here. If in the event that a customer does require some kind of development service in the engagement or any kind of really specific customization that's going to impact the user interface, then this document will need to be provided. And what this document does is it provides information on your development practices. Is your development staff trained in digital accessibility? What kind of training have they completed? Do they use assistive technology when they do testing? What does the testing stage look like? How do they document defects? How do they document remediation of those defects? And it has some questions on there around alternative means. If you cannot make something accessible, or if there is a defect, how will you work around that defect? Next slide, please. This is a sample of what the VADSER form looks like. So it just has general information about the company. Next slide, please. And then these are the questions that I just detailed out for you. So it's a few questions. If you do have to complete this form for some reason, please provide as much detail as possible. So I have seen responses that say, as far as training for the development staff, that they are trained regularly with in-house training, and that's the entire answer. And that answer does not score as well as an answer that says staff has been trained on assistive technology, for example, Dragon, NVDA, blah, 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 and training is done, every year. That is a better answer. So just as much detail as you can provide if you do complete this form, that will help your score. Next slide, please. So DIR has a new program for our vendors. We provide digital accessibility training to you at no cost. There are 4 courses in the training plan. Each course is roughly an hour long or less. If you are interested in taking this training, you can contact me by emailing statewide-accessibility@dir.texas.gov. Again, there is no cost for this training. If you email me requesting access to the training, please copy Moshe Thomas on the email as the procurement lead. Next slide, please. We have additional resources on our website. The templates are also provided in your solicitation packet. If you have any questions or need help as you're completing any of these forms, I believe you are permitted to contact me to ask those questions. You are required to also add the procurement lead on those emails. So make sure that if you reach out to me, Moshe is contacted on those emails as well. Next slide, please. And this is the rest of my contact information. And that ends my presentation. I'll hand it back over.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vanya Raymakers, and I'm a procurement lead working with Moshe in our cooperative contract division. Next slide, please. Okay, so I am going to go over some general information for you all, and I'm also going to discuss in detail how our vendor portal work, the bid stamp vendor information portal. And I'm going to go through specific details on this system and how it works. And then I'm going to give you guys some ideas as to more documentation, more training about it, how to set up your accounts, etc. So first, like to reference the RFO page number and section when submitting questions. This will help us understand your question better if you let us know which portion of the solicitation you having to ask questions about. So please, in every one of your questions, as you read the RFO solicitation, give us your page number and the section number as well. Also, webinar participants may submit questions electronic at any time during this presentation under the question tab below. This presentation and the video and the recordings will be available to all participants today. And the webinar slides, the questions and answers will be posted under the addendums. Plus, there will be a link to the YouTube video where you can actually listen to these instructions again if you request to follow up on anything that you misunderstand. Questions and answers today are unofficial until posted on ESBD in the form of an addendum. Check the ESBD often for updates. A misconception of vendors is that DIR will be letting you know when there's a posted addendum. Yes, DIR sometimes will send out notice if you are registered for receiving notice through the VIS portal, and I will discuss where you can do that. You will get a notice that an addendum has been posted. DIR is not responsible to keep you informed. That is your responsibility to check the ESBD often for updates. We also do not provide documents in our system. You will have to go to the ESBD and download any documentation addendums that are posted for this RFO. All questions regarding the RFO must be submitted in writing through our portal. So in order for you, we're not saying that you can't ask questions any other way. Just be aware that any official question you want answered through an addendum and posted to the ESBD must be submitted through the VIS portal. It is a better way for DIR to keep track of your questions and to make sure we don't miss anybody. Reminder, these questions are due by November 24th, 2023 at 5 p.m. I understand we have some holidays ahead of us and some people are going to be out most of next week. So be proactive and submit your questions in advance. Also, when it's important for you to know that the 24th at 5 p.m., the system will no longer allow you to submit any questions. Next slide. So let's talk about disqualification of offers. Few things that most vendors fail to do and are very upset after the fact is that Exhibit A is not signed. I like to make it very clear that there are sections in the RFO where it talks about DIR discretion on minor errors on your submission and how we will work with you on those. Signing form Exhibit A is not a minor error. It is a major thing, because imagine that your company must sign this document in order for us to know you're serious about your response. If you don't sign this response to us, it means nothing, because you are not affirming all of your documentation that you submitted. It is not official. So signing Exhibit A form, it is a short way for you to be disqualified if that form is not signed. And what kind of signature? Not copy and paste. It must be a signature in ink, print, sign, scan, upload, or through a form on an official email system or signature system like DocuSign or others compatible to that. So that is very important. Failure to complete financial information, which means your DUNS number needs to be correct. Another thing that you need to remember about your DUNS number and your DUNS and BRADSTIT registration, your company name. We have found several times where there's been issues where somewhere your company name is Inc. and another place is LLC, or your company name is abbreviated in some systems and not in the official system. Consistency in your name and address for your company will expedite things a lot when it comes to review and qualifications and on your administrator review. Financial information is very critical. Your VIS registration, name, address of your company must match your DUNS number, Bradstreet company registration, your Secretary of State registration with the state of Texas, your franchise tax, all of these company registration that are required by the state of Texas needs to be consistent throughout. So right now you have time to correct anything that is wrong, to verify, especially your DUNS and Bradstreet financial information. Watch your score on those, because you still have time to fix it or correct or work with them, because the day that we check is the day that matters. And if you fail financial, nothing else matters. So be aware of that. The hub subcontracting plan, it is something that needs to be signed. It cannot be in Word. You cannot forget to upload your backup documentation, as Teresa explained. And these are things that there is no way around it. They're not minor, they're musts, okay? Failure to complete and submit your itemized pricing sheet, both the actual spreadsheet in the spreadsheet format, do not PDF this document, and your online bid stamp pricing form must be completed. Both needs to be completed based on all the information you've been given through the RFO documentation and this presentation as well. And failure to submit on or before the due date and time. It is a system. So at 2 p.m., it will shut down. You will not be able to submit. There is no way around this because of the electronic age. It is not going to work no matter who you call that you miss to push that submit button. Many people have put everything in there responding to this RFO or many others and don't push the submit button, and then they try to tell us, but we did it. Well, the system pretty much records everything, and it's not men mandated, so the system is not going to make a mistake on when you push that submit button, because after 2 p.m. you cannot. So please, pretty please, make sure that you sign your Exhibit A, submit your DUNS number, fill out and sign your hub plan, complete your pricing sheet, both the spreadsheet and online pricing form, and make sure you push the submit button, okay? And the most important thing of all, do not contact a DIR employee regarding this RFO that is not Moshe or anyone in this presentation that has been authorized to discuss with you this RFO. The hub plan and accessibility, that's it, and Moshe. And whenever you reach Marie or Teresa for hub and accessibility assistance, you will CC Moshe to make sure he has a record. Talking to upper management, to executive management, to people on any type of function outside of DIR, it will automatically disqualify you. So please don't take any chances, okay? All your responses will only be accepted through the VIS portal. Next slide. So, respondents and all representatives shall not attempt to discuss contents of this RFO. As we told you before, this is very important. It will be disqualified. Okay, next slide. Here are some of the contact information. You will talk to Moshe about everything. You will contact Stephanie if you have problems with your portal, your vendor information system. Email is the best way to contact her. She will answer any problems you may have, IT problems. She'll contact IT, she'll take care of you. Hub subcontracting plan, Teresa, and the dir.hub.dir.texas. We always prefer that you go to the dir.hub because somebody's always, no matter if it's a holiday or if something, there's always somebody looking at that email box. And sometimes Teresa will be out of town and you might have to wait a day or two. So be sure to send to both to be safe. Next. So bid submittal. Any respondent to this RFO must submit their response through the VIS portal. I think I said that enough. Before you can use the VIS portal, you have to sign up if you haven't already. Any older vendors that have been with our program for a while, we had a major upgrade of the system September, I think sometime in September of this year. So if you have not accessed your VIS portal recently, I strongly recommend that you do. And if you don't have this link to the portal, that's the new link, means your credentials might not work. You might have to reach out and get them updated to the new system. So make sure that you, before you do anything, this is the right time, right after this meeting. If you had a VIS portal account before, Bidstamp, go in, try to access it. If you can't, get on it right away to make sure that you get new credentials, new assessment, and you get directed to the new web page for that system. If a vendor does not have login credentials, this is the address that you can talk to and ask for it. You can go into, I'll show you on the DIR webpage where you go to request your login credentials, okay? Just make sure that you do it sooner than later. And then Bidstamp right now has a video of how to set up your account. It's a link here, and it's also on the DIR website. Also, we have a Bidstamp guide that you can download it, PDF file that you can read to follow and help you with any questions about the system. So we will give you an overall picture today. I will try to walk you through responding to an RFO. but I expect you to also reach out to the videos, to the training, to the manual, to be able to make sure that you don't do anything that is not going to make your response successful. Okay, so we're going to give you a lot of tools. We expect you to do your part, and we will do ours to make sure you're successful. Next slide. So, but if there's anybody out there with any disabilities which cannot provide a solicitation response through the VIS portal for any reason, you can, there's a section 3.1 of the solicitation will tell you how to ask DIR for accommodations to receive your response. Next slide. So now let's talk about the VIS portal, how to navigate the Bitstamp vendor login. So if you go into our DIR webpage, you will see right on the front when you clock in, selling through DIR. So you're going to click on that button and you're going to scroll down that web page for further information. Next slide. So then once you get to the next page, you will schedule solicitation opportunities. You're going to click on that button and you're going to keep scrolling. Next slide. So now you're going to see at the very bottom of the page, the Bitstamp Online solicitation portal. You're going to click on that. If you do not have credentials, you are going to click on the other button, request credentials for Bitstamp access. Okay. Now, right below that, you will see the PDF file I talked to you about the training guide. Download that and read it and get yourself familiar with our system. It is user-friendly, but like anything technology, if you don't have the hang of it, you might make mistakes, and you don't want that to happen 2 minutes before the bid closes, right? Because that's when we do everything. Next slide. Now, as you go down the page where you saw that, you will have this screen for logging in. You put your username and your password. If you don't have an account, you can click here. If you forget your password, you also can do it through this screen, okay? And remember, if you're an older vendor that's been with Bitstamp before and you have an old sign-in, you are going to need to refresh your credentials to get into the new system, okay? The upgraded system. Next. So now you're in Bitstamp, you logged in, everything is working. You're going to go to that tab that says, so you're going to see My Account, where you can update your information, vendor information. You're going to see Open Solicitations, About DIR, your responses to see where they are, and how to contact DIR. That's your screen menu. So we're going to go to Open Solicitations first. Next slide. Next slide. So now what you're going to see here is a list of things that are open. Of course, these are older, but you will see current open solicitations when you go into this screen. You're going to log in. You're going to click on the RFO number 583, as it states there. And then you will navigate to the RFO detail page. Next slide. So here's the RFO detail page. Imagine that this is 583. Here's what you're going to see. Respond to solicitation, ask a question, subscribe to solicitation. Why is this button important? If you want to know when addendums are posted, that's the button you push. You have to subscribe in order to get notices that addendums have been posted, so that you can then go to the ESBD and download that document. And then view solicitation documents. That's a link to the ESBD, so you can go and download all your documentation. The VIS portal has no documents for you to download. Okay, next slide. So respond to a solicitation, create a new response, view a response in progress. And if our response has already been created, started, this button will read as view response and allow you to resume your progress on an existing response. So you can do things in stage. Ask a question. That's where you submit all your questions. The deadline is November 24th, okay? Subscribe to a solicitation. As I told you before, this is for you to know when we have posted an addendum, you will get an email that says, hey, this solicitation got a new addendum. You go to the ESBD, download that addendum. And don't forget, guys, very critical, you have to download, sign every addendum, and upload as part of your response, okay? View solicitation document. This will navigate you to ESBD posting, as I told you before, to view and download the documents for this solicitation. Next slide. All right, so here is where we're going to work on uploading our response. So now we're in the response screen, and we're going to start responding to this RFO, okay? So first, delete. Delete all information that you have uploaded. Be careful with this button because you cannot get it back. Once you push this button, you have to start all over, okay? You also can withdraw your response that is halfway through or that you already submitted but forgot something again. If you withdraw and you delete, be careful with those buttons, okay? Then you're going to have your submit button. As we told you before, the submit response button will be there until 2 o'clock on the date. January 17th is the due date. I remember that because my birthday is on the 16th, so can't forget January 17th there. So that's when your responses are due. So if you don't push that submit button, it's not going to happen. So make sure that you do, okay? Ask a question. We already talked about that. Every single question you have, you will submit it through that button. And don't forget, reference the RFO page number, the RFO section, or the actual exhibit that you are asking a question about. If you're asking about the pricing sheet, if you're asking about the hub form, list that exhibit, the page number within the exhibit, and the section of that exhibit that you are asking a question about, okay? And then most important thing, as Moshe have walked you through, creating your pricing form within the bid stamp. Yes, your spreadsheet is a requirement and it must be submitted in the Excel form because we need that form to do a lot of analysis of pricing. However, you need to create a pricing form based on the instructions that Moshe has given you. Some RFOs require that you do partial entry. You do brand and discount, or you have to do category and discounts. Pay attention to what the instructions are for your RFO when creating your bid stamp pricing form. Very important, because guess what? If you don't create a pricing form, we can't upload your documents for evaluation after administrative review is done. So make sure that form is created, okay? Now, response documents. So now we're going to upload each document as you go completing them. Start with the most important document of all, Exhibit A, signed Exhibit A. Now, one mistake that vendor makes a lot in our system, you seem to keep the form name that we give it to you, like RFO, blah, 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 583, Exhibit A, responded information, and then you are going to upload that same document with that huge name plus your company name. There's a limit to the number of characters for a form in order to be uploaded to the system. There's 80 characters. If that form has any type of, symbols or percentage or whatever, and not have more than 80 characters, the system will not let you upload it. So under the RFO, there is a section that talks about how to abbreviate your forms, where you put 3 digits of your name. So if my name is Computer Solutions Doc Trace, I would say CSD, and then the RFO number, RFO 583, and then the name of the form, Exhibit A. And if you follow that formula, your forms names will never get over 80 characters, because then you will not have to call us and say, hey, my document's not uploading. And we have to say, hey, just shorten the name. Very simple, time consuming that you just want to avoid. Okay. So remember that. Also, when you are doing your documents, put them in exhibit order. Always put the exhibit name, letter, and the name. Don't need to spell it out, PDAA, whatever that is for. Just put accessibility, VPAT, or you put PDAA. That's it. We know what that is. Exhibit E, PDAA, Exhibit F, whatever the name is, shorten it so that you're very clear. So when somebody's going to upload these documents, they're going to go easy, and then they'll be in order. And it's easy for the evaluators to find everything they need in your response and can say, oh, look, everything is here. This is complete. Check, administrative pass. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, vendor reference. This is for DIR to give you, is something that we give to you as an assistance for you. However, there's a drawback. DIR is not responsible if your references don't get these emails that you loaded up. Okay, we put up your reference form there. You can put the emails and automatically send to your customers, and your customers can download the form, fill it out, and then send it to DIR via email, the RFO email. This will send the reference request forms, but it will not allow them to respond. Also, another drawback to this button, we are not responsible if it goes through or not. We cannot tell you if your customer got it. If you send it to the customer, you can trace it when they receive it, and you can follow up with them if they have submitted. You cannot submit references to DIR. Your customers have to submit those references through the DIR email for this RFO. Okay, next slide. All right. So, things that you must provide. Exhibit A, signed. Exhibit A, cancel contracts, Appendix 1. Exhibit B, respondent, history and experience. Exhibit C, contract marketing and support plan, historic. Exhibit D, hub plan. I'm shortening it for you. Exhibit E, price sheet. Exhibit F, vendor references do not need to be submitted with your response, but they need to be done through your customers. And then every customer that submits a response to you that you send a vendor references request needs to have a release of liability form filled out, because we need to have your permission to contact these reference if the need comes to be. Okay, next slide. So we have your certification EDGA forms, you have your accessibility PDAA. So exhibit I, PDAA. Don't put out vendor accessibility policy assessment, because then your file is going to be too long name. So just shorten exhibit I, PDAA, upload. Okay. Exhibit J is your ACRs or your VPATs. Just exhibit J, VPAT, shorten it up. Okay, same thing with your VETSR. Just exhibit K, VETSR, that's your name. Fill it up, upload. Okay. Now, software license agreement, service agreement. One of the things I like to say about this to you is this. We have given you the samples of these documents, lease agreements, service agreements. That's it. If you are going to get any exceptions, requests, okay, just keep in mind that our terms and conditions was always going to apply to any license and service agreements, unless otherwise negotiated. Okay. Also, don't forget to sign and upload every one of your addendums to this RFO. Next slide. Okay, rejections. This is that little form I was telling you about that says, has the sole discretionary authority and reserves the right to reject any and all response received as a result of this RFO, okay? And keep in mind that we will waive minor technicalities, minor. We are not gonna waive not signing your appendix, your exhibit A, not signing your hub plan. We are not gonna waive those things because they're critical, okay? Your financial documentation, all of those, the DUNS number, we're not gonna waive those things. They're not minor, okay? Next slide. All right, before we go to questions and take a break, I like to just give you guys a little bit of a, just something I have from experience. Top 3 reasons vendors fail and are disqualified from their RFO responses. I hate to see you all waste all of your time putting this together to come up and disqualify. Exhibit A, financial, okay, and hub plans. Just be careful. Make sure your company name, your company address is all current. It's all matching on all your registrations. Those things are critical to you being able to get a contract expediently, okay? All right, that's it for me. I'll let Moshe take over.
Thank you, Vanya. All right, we reached almost to the end here. We'll be taking questions, but before we do that, we're going to take a 10 minutes break and then we'll come back. Just to remind you before we want to break that make sure you reference the section number of the RFO. So if we need to get to that section, we can easily do that. Also remember that the questions that we're going to be, that you are answering, you're asking and we are answering, the unofficial until they're posted on the ESPD, and you can always submit additional questions through the Bitstamp VIS portal, as Vanya has just explained it to you. All right, let's take a quick 10 and then we'll be right back.
Yeah. Oh, we're 10-minute break before Q&A. I got you. Got it inspected. Hold on. I don't know if I did something here.
All right, everybody. It's been 10 minutes. We're ready to start. Timer just went off. We do have some few questions, right, Brianna?
Yes.
So you want to go ahead and read them out?
Yes, absolutely. So Brooke submitted, I think, a 3-part question. Exhibit C, contract marketing customer support plan, page 2, describes how the respondent will manage the contract to ensure uninterrupted high-quality performance and overall contract effectiveness. Include the process for the transfer of subscriptions among the user of a DIR customer entity to ensure uninterrupted of services. Question: why would the respondent be transferring subscriptions among DIR customers? Under what circumstance would this occur?
That's a good question. Do you want to tackle that, Stephanie?
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. So whenever there is a, let's see. So we have the customer canceled or vendor canceled contracts. Those would be customer canceled. Whether or not there is a transfer of services or a subscription depends on how it was procured or awarded the last time. So you may have a particular vendor that, say, for example, they have a particular type of printer contract, but more than one reseller is authorized to provide the services and maintenance on that printer contract, the lease of that, and they're no longer an authorized reseller for that particular contract, but now we've awarded to a new authorized reseller of that same printer. The printer is still under the same manufacturer, so it's still under the same warranty, same maintenance plan, and you may have parts of that transfer under the service and maintenance of a new reseller that's awarded because the previous reseller wasn't re-awarded a contract.
Okay.
It's rare, but it does happen.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
And the next question pertains to the BidStep portal. Can more than one company representative sign in for an account and access the VIS portal?
The BidStep VIS, Vanya, can you take that over?
Yes, up to 5 people from same company can have access.
And just to clarify, everyone needs to request their own credentials from that company.
Okay.
Okay, well, that is all the questions that we have.
All right. All right. Let's can move to the
Oh,
next
wait.
slide, please.
Sorry, I think
That's okay.
one just came in. It's about the hub subcontracting plan. It mentioned we can submit our HSP for review prior to submitting the RFO. Should we submit this directly to hub?
Oh, that Teresa.
Yes, the answer is yes. Use that dir.hub@dir.texas.gov email address is the best one to submit that to. And then we will give you feedback if any corrections need to be made.
I do want to reiterate on the courtesy reviews for Hub. Those are a courtesy. They kind of get processed in the order that they're received, but the courtesy reviews come after a prioritization list that the Hub department has to review. So it's not necessarily an immediate turnaround, so you need to plan for that. If you want the Hub department to give a courtesy review before the solicitation is due, you need to do your work and get that submitted well in advance. Anything less than the timeline that was stated in the proposal is not going to necessarily get the review back. And again, it is a courtesy review. It is to help, and they will give feedback generally one time and kind of keep going with it. So then it's up to you to take it and use their feedback to complete your hub subcontracting plan. We tend to have vendors that will keep coming back around and asking for updates on that, like less than one full business day after turning it in. They're not on standby just to do the courtesy reviews. There is a lot of other work that goes into the hub department. So please remember that it's a courtesy review. They're processed in the order that received after the prioritization of the other workload that they have going on at that same time.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I think we can proceed to the next slide. Oh, we are already there. Just a few reminders. Just go back a minute. Thank you. Just a few questions, a few reminders here that all the questions that you asked today and they've been answered are not official until they're posted on ESBD in the form of an addendum. And also that the changes that are made to this RFO will also be posted as an addenda under the RFO number, DIR /CPO-TMP-583 also and there's an ESBD link right there. You can go directly to it, and it is your responsibility to make sure that you monitor the ESBD for all these changes in the addendas as they come through. Okay, next slide, please. Again, just a reminder of the most important days that we want to be looking at. November 24th, next week at 5 o'clock. That's the deadline for submitting all the questions that you have for this RFO. And the big deadline will be January 17th next year at 2 p.m. when you have to submit all the responses for this RFO. Also, all the vendors' reference should be submitted on that date as well. And next slide, please. And like I said at the beginning, that I'm the contact person for this RFO. So all the questions that you have, the inquiries, you can direct them to me, Moshe Thomas at moshe.thomas@dir.texas.gov. And if I don't have the answers for you, obviously I'll talk to my colleagues and then we'll take it from there. Next slide, please. Well, this is the end of the presentation for today. I want to take a minute to thank everyone for attending. Make sure that you go to ESBN, this is where the presentation will be, and all the comments and the voice recording will be there as well. So you can always review and go back to see things that you might have missed. But I want to thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Victor, can you click end webinar for all? Victor, go to leave and then end webinar for all.